Hello Dwebs, I'm Eric and welcome to TheLooneyTurtle. So today I want to talk about Hazbin Hotel, but I don't really have a set of things that I want to talk about in the same format as I do with my other videos. So instead I'm going to do kind of a react analysis style video where I'm going to watch a little bit and then react to it and then watch a little bit. Kind of give my thoughts as I go on. I was originally going to start this with the pilot, but a problem that I ran into is that it feels unfair to criticize the pilot of this show because it is essentially a pitch. It's a, hey, here's the world, here's the characters we want to explore. Give us money to make it into a full series. And so it kind of feels unfair to judge that on its own, but as a series that is published on Amazon Prime and made by Studio A24, it feels a little bit better to criticize that because it's a more professional studio. And while it does have indie roots, it does have a lot of good actors and a lot of good talent behind it. And so it feels a lot more fair to kind of judge it against those factors. Now, this video is not to say that I don't like Hazbin Hotel. Hands down, going to continue watching it. The songs are catchy, the visuals are amazing, but from a storytelling perspective, I feel that there's a lot to be desired. So I will be kind of comparing and contrasting between the pilot and this, as well as just giving my general thoughts on how they're utilizing their time, their storytelling potential, and hopefully somebody in the world is able to learn something from that. So yeah, let's get started. Gonna switch my audio sources. First and foremost, that's one thing that I really like is when they actually implement the logos into the series itself. It keeps you in the experience as opposed to all of these different styles of introduction that are very standardized across the board. It's nice to see an Amazon series and Bento Box and A24 all in kind of this welcome to the Hazbin Hotel universe. We're going to be using those design elements to influence the logos. I like that. I definitely prefer that in my media, and I wish that we saw it more. As opposed to the Amazon Prime logo that we saw at the very beginning. So I feel that there's a lot of storytelling potential that is missed with this introduction. Who wrote the story of hell? Was it Lilith? Was it Lucifer? Was it God? Who wrote this story and then gave it to Charlie? And if they wrote it, why not have them be the narrator of this story? Because then we have more of a direct, this person wrote the story, they're telling the story. And now we'll get into Charlie's story. Just kind of a minor note as in regards to exactly who wrote this story. There could be some storytelling in that, maybe even just like written by on the very bottom there. Give us a hint as to who wrote this book and why it exists. Because then that could paint kind of the perspective in which this story was told. Was it, if it was told from Lucifer's perspective or Lilith's perspective, then that would be drastically different from, say, Adam or Emily writing this story. So definitely some storytelling potential with that. Beyond that, comparing and contrasting this scene from the very beginning of the pilot, I'd say that the pilot did too much showing, not telling, and then this one did too much telling, not showing. I feel that there needs to be a balance between showing and telling people the story, especially when it comes to elements that aren't very clear. As an example, in the original pilot, I felt that there was a little bit of confusion or ambiguity as to who exactly was with Lucifer. It's like a looming monstrous figure that makes me immediately kind of think of Vivzy Pop's depiction of Satan, or at least like a character similar to that. And I don't feel that that was the proper interpretation. Maybe it was supposed to be Lilith, but either way, I was kind of confused as to exactly what characters were present in that scene and why they were pointing to Pentagram City. And there's confusion that can be led by showing too much and not really explaining it, or showing but not having a clear idea of what you're trying to communicate to the audience and what comes across to the audience as a result of those visuals. If you want kind of an example of a story that shows you everything and make sure that you're kind of able to figure things out based on the context clues and so on, it would be very worth your time to analyze and break down Carl and Ellie's adventure at the very beginning of Up, because that has no words, it's just music, but we see so much of their life and see so many things that are communicated to the audience. Like when they're at a doctor's office, there's this very small, very kind of compressed scene at a fertility clinic where it's clear to the audience just watching this that she can't have children, that Carl and Ellie can't have children together. So when it comes to this introduction, I feel that they explain far more than they need to, and instead they could rely more heavily on their visuals to communicate exactly what's going on. But in the manner in which they did tell the story, again, I feel that it would be beneficial to kind of start off the mystery by having a voice narrate it that isn't Charlie, and then going into the story as opposed to this back and forth that we're about to have with Vaggie and Charlie. 7 years she's been missing. Why wasn't that communicated in this intro? Because we very clearly have a scene in which we're informed that she disappeared. So how long ago was that? And why do we need to establish this in a back and forth between Charlie and Vaggie? Beyond that, the conversation so far, it doesn't feel like they've been together very long, but at the same time, it's kind of implied that they've been together for a while. I question if, like, Vaggie was picked up this extermination or if it was last extermination, so they've been together a year. And even, like, either case, it feels like they're handling the story between these two characters wrong. If it's been a year, this is a conversation they should have already had. This is information that Vaggie should have already had context for. So it's weird for them to retread this conversation as a couple that's been together for a while, whereas if it's been, like, Charlie literally picked her up for this extermination. So it has to have at least been a year since these two met, and if not longer. So it feels weird for them to be talking about this kind of stuff as if, oh yeah, I don't remember any of those details, when I feel like they should have had this conversation enough times that some of that information kind of stuck. I also feel that this scene could have been used to better establish the story. So Charlie is starting this hotel. She's got a lot of anxiety, and I feel that the meeting with Heaven shouldn't have been a run-of-the-mill, oh, Dad just called me to go to Heaven, which we'll see in a little bit. I feel that should have been the basis of the storyline. Get us into the narrative. She's anxious about getting this hotel ready. Alistair has a commercial together that's kind of a joke, and the extermination just happened, so she's already got like, I need to comfort myself from this extermination that just happened. So it feels like this introduction doesn't start with its feet running. It just kind of meanders, and that conversation feels like something that wasn't necessary from a storytelling perspective, and it actually confuses me about the dynamics between the characters more than it helps. So at least that's kind of one thought that comes to mind. The Hazbin Hotel's only been around for 5 days? It doesn't really feel like she's got a good pitch. Doesn't feel like she's got anything together to have this hotel be a big, we need to make sure that everything's on track type of thing. Just kind of feels like she's just dreaming completely. It's weird that he's all about supremacy. He was willing to make this commercial, and he's willing to help the hotel. It's so confusing to understand this character, because later on he decides to kick Nifty out because she is... No, not Nifty. Kick Mimsy. The names are so similar. She kicks Mimsy out. Alistair kicks Mimsy out because she's trying to compromise exactly what's going on in this hotel. But in this moment, he treats it like a joke. Like, Alistair is an enigma in this series. I feel that even if he's got sinister means, he is such a weird character. Does he support the hotel? Does he not? Is he supporting the hotel as a facade, or is he not? Like, there needs to be some clarity in your character motivation, and I feel that Vivzy doesn't even know the motivation of this character. Maybe it's, oh yeah, he's enslaved, so he has to care about the hotel, but also he's going to basically compromise the hotel by making it look like a joke, by making it seem like something that's not going to work. He's an advertiser. We could highlight some of his power in creating advertisement. And I feel that that could be very beneficial to the show, to show us the power of the radio demon through an advertisement. Maybe his first advertisement when he comes back is for the Hazbin Hotel, to be like, I'm now helping with this new venture. And maybe that's what ticks off Vox, instead of Angel Dust and Valentino being the thing that ticks him off. Instead, it's Alistair making a broadcast and influencing so many different demons in the process. So it could have been an opportunity to highlight his power as an overlord in hell. He has power over the radio waves, which could also be he could have power over the audio signal in TVs, and that's what pisses up Vox off. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like they're really going with that venture. This episode isn't going for communicating as much as it can about its characters in the shortest amount of time. It's just kind of, we've got the hotel. Let's have some moments in there, you know? Let's just have the characters go back and forth in one room for a minute and then continue on. I will say it's weird every time that they bring up a time period. Oh, my mom's been gone 7 years ago. Oh, the hotel's been founded 5 days ago. When you came here, how many weeks ago? Like, they're establishing time, and it just kind of feels weird that they've put it in there. It feels like, oh, I need to establish this. Let's put that point there and that point there. They're weaving together different pieces of information that they want the audience to have. And to me, it doesn't feel natural. It feels kind of here, there, everywhere. I don't know why it's important for me to know how long ago Alistair started helping the hotel, or how long ago the hotel was open to the public, or how long ago, so on and so forth. It just feels weird in this first episode for them to be introducing these different elements. Actually, that's another question. Why didn't they just start with Angel Dust being the star of the commercial? Why did they meander around like having a random demon that's helping you? Just go make a commercial. Doesn't matter who's already here. Don't include them in the commercial. Don't include the famous porn star as one of our residents. Just instead go on the streets and make a commercial. Like, why was Angel Dust not a foundational element in that advertisement? Why wasn't it even mentioned? Why is Angel Dust here? My first viewing of this, that was literally a question that came to mind. He doesn't seem like he cares about the whole redemption thing, and it seems very much like his motivation to go to the hotel is that he wants time away from Valentino, because Valentino sees him as his number one, the slut that gets the most abuse from Valentino. Poison as a song later in the series is a perfect pretext to why he goes to the hotel, which is why I personally feel like it should have been something that was earlier in the series. Like, explain why the character goes to the hotel before they go to the hotel rather than afterwards. It feels like we're getting context to his reasoning after this point, when it should have been a precursor. Because, again, in my first viewing of this, I was wondering, why is Angel Dust even here? Why does Angel care about going to the hotel? Like, it's obvious that he doesn't care for the idea of redemption, so why is he here? He just kind of seems like an annoyed person that's always drunk, always on drugs, always kind of out of it. So why are they here? What's the point of them going to the hotel? And again, Poison, very good context as to why, but it feels like it's put in the wrong place in the series. Unless they wanted to make a mystery out of that. But even then, I feel that a good mystery is something that's worth being a mystery, not just something that you make a mystery for the sake of having mysteries in your show. Angel shouldn't be a mystery. He's the first patron of the hotel. He's the first person that we're going to learn about being on the road of redemption. And even if he's not the first to be redeemed, we should spend a significant amount of time kind of exploring the characters that we redeem, as opposed to them just being an aspect of the show and they're perfect already, so it's like whatever, you know? So the way that this is portrayed later is that Lucifer just didn't want to be bothered going to the Heaven Embassy because he's been there before. He's gone through the rigmarole, and he's like, oh, I guess I got to deal with Adam. Hey, Charlie, could you go to the Heaven Embassy for me? This is a off-the-cuff, Lucifer doesn't care kind of meeting. But Charlie sees it as the most significant thing ever without even having tried to previously ask Lucifer to get her a meeting with Heaven. Like, this is on a whim, she's getting this meeting with Adam. Not, she's been preparing for this her entire time working with the hotel, setting up the hotel, 5 days of running the hotel, like all of she's been spending time on this hotel, and her meeting with Heaven, her most critical thing of being able to actually redeem demons and bring them to Heaven, hasn't even been discussed with Heaven. It's like, I want to get them in your golden gates. Okay, cool. We're never letting them in. End of story. Like, it should have been something that she was preparing for and something that she was begging for, rather than something that's just kind of a run-of-the-mill, oh, Lucifer doesn't want to go to a meeting, so just send Charlie instead. She's good enough. She's the princess of hell. That works. It feels like the weirdest way to send her to Adam. And overall, I feel that storytelling-wise, this episode was a bit of a waste, because we have 2 plot lines, essentially. One is the commercial plot line, which ends with us not seeing the commercial, not seeing the fruits of their labor. So it was a pointless plot line. And the second one is just Charlie having a meeting with Adam to find out that the hotel isn't viable. It feels like this episode could have told far more than it did, but it kind of wasted a lot of time in telling those 2 plot points. And not really having a clear set of ideas for how all of this slowly comes together. As I was saying earlier, I think that the story was fine. Telling that story and then immediately going into Charlie and her struggle with preparing for the hotel to be pitched to Heaven. Like, she's been running it for 5 days. She's already got a patron, and then she may be even getting more patrons, and now she's got to pitch this idea to Heaven, and maybe they'll support this. Like, rather than having the story that way, they're kind of meandering to be like, oh yeah, we gotta give each character their moment in the first episode. So let's have Vaggie and Charlie talk, and then we also got to establish Lilith's been gone for 7 years, so just throw that in there. The hotel's been around for 5 days. Let's throw that in there. Let's have a conversation between Vaggie, Alistair, and Charlie, kind of show their dynamic. Maybe Angel does, Nifty, Husker. Introduce our main characters, you know. Got to introduce everyone in those scenes. And then let's just send Charlie right to the Heaven Embassy. It feels like there's things that they have on a list that they want to establish, and they're just weaving a needle through those, as opposed to thinking of the context to that and how they want to implement that into the story. It shouldn't be a half-assed, Lucifer doesn't want to have a meeting that leads to Charlie being able to pitch her Hazbin Hotel to Heaven. It should be a planned affair. It should be something that she's been fighting for. But it isn't. It's just kind of it feels like the plot of the Hazbin Hotel isn't really thought out. Like, why does Charlie even remotely think this is viable with the history that she's told of hell? Like, the last time that somebody tried to unify the demons, they disappeared for 7 years. The last time someone tried to unify the demons, that started a yearly purge of hell. So why does Charlie even remotely think that this is viable? And it's not just because, oh, she's a naive princess. No, she's got a brain. Like, she has perceptions. She can see what's right in her front of her. It feels weird that, like, she thinks that this is viable when, the last time this happened, there was a purge instated on hell, a yearly purge. Her mother's gone, just disappeared for 7 years. Oh yeah, she's totally doing something important. No idea where she went or why she went, but definitely got to be something important right there. And like, what makes her even think that this hotel is viable? Is there a way to establish that this hotel is viable before the series? Maybe somebody's redeemed and Charlie's trying to capitalize on that. Like, it's a mystery as to how this random demon got redeemed, and she wants to make it happen more. She thinks it's possible, and Heaven, ever reluctant, doesn't want to embrace that. They're just like, nah, that was a fluke. That was definitely a fluke. We're not doing this rehabilitation thing. You can do whatever you want. You're the princess of hell. You can do whatever you want in hell, but we're not doing this redemption thing. They're not allowed. They're not allowed in hell. Well, in heaven. Like, there could be more in that, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like that part of it has been really thought out. It feels like Vivzie just has colorful characters, fun songs, fun moments that she wants to do, and she's just kind of weaving them together. And that's my ultimate disappointment with this show is I love those fun character designs. I love the songs. It just doesn't feel like a show that was thought out from the ground up from a storytelling perspective. And that's kind of the disappointment that I have in some of these scenes, and that's why I'm being so critical. Is that I don't want stories to be this. I want them to be thought out. I want the lore to be considered, and I want things to make sense as the story goes on. Which I feel with Lackadaisy, that might happen with Amazing Digital Circus, with the other independent animations. I'm trying to think of the other one that Glitch does. Murder Drones. I feel that all of them are trying to tell stories that slowly build on the world. Like, they have a clear picture of what story they want to tell and how they want to tell it, and they build from there. Whereas Hazbin, and to a lesser extent Hell of a Boss, very much feel like they're just these fun elements, these fun songs, these random things that they want to have in a show, just stitched together as best they can, rather than carefully thought out and told into a story that feels like it was intended this way the whole time. So yeah, that's kind of random side tangent, little bit I wanted to say about this show. Continue. I like how Vaggy's being logical about this. The extermination just happened. What could they possibly want to have a meeting about? That makes sense. And then Charlie, in her infinite naivety, is like, I'm going to pitch my hotel. And again, like, the song is good. Like, I enjoy the songs of this show. But it just feels like this story is, again, those moments that are just stitched together. They don't have to make sense, but they have to include the things that Vivzie and her team want in this. I feel that this song is the perfect introduction to this show, this perfect through line for the show, but not in the way in which they did this. So, Happy Day in Hell, as it's presented in the show, is Charlie going to the Heaven Embassy to pitch her idea for a hotel, and I will say this is the weakest singing from Vaggy. Like, this, very monotone, very I'm here and everything's going well. Like, the rest of the show, she doesn't sing like this. She's very different in singing style than what we see in this song. But the thing that I do want to point out in this song is that today's going to be a happy day in hell, and Charlie is contrasting with the denizens of hell, because the denizens are like, it's a shitty day in hell, it's going to be terrible. Why is it random nobodies that are singing in this song with her? Like, she's got people who are against the hotel. There's characters that we're going to be exploring in this series. When I think of this song, I also think about comparing and contrasting it to Hamilton's, like Alexander Hamilton's song. Because in that song, we have Aaron Burr starting out, how does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore, and his, I always think of the Helsing Ultimate abridged version, so I was about to sing the lyrics of that instead of the lyrics of actual Hamilton, so gotta love it. But comparing and contrasting this song with Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, the very first song establishes all of our main cast. It establishes what they think throughout the rest of the series, throughout the rest of the musical, and it gives us a lot of elements that are going to be seen in the rest of the musical. Whereas Happy Day in Hell doesn't really. It feels like it leaves our main cast to just explore Charlie's Want, which, I mean, it works, but it misses the mark on a lot of storytelling potential. Because she's going through the entirety of hell to get to the Heaven Embassy. Why is the contrast not the people that we're going to be meeting through the entire journey of this show? Why are we not hearing from Alistair? Why are we not hearing from Angel Dust? Why are we not hearing from Husker? And if you're going to say, oh, because it'd be expensive to have them voice their characters, they're literally in this song. Like, their voice actors are literally singing in this song. So that's bullshit. They're definitely able to sing as a part of this song. So it feels weird that in our very introductory song, we're not seeing a lot of contrast between Charlie, who believes that this is going to be a very positive, very fruitful endeavor, and everyone she's working with believing it's a terrible idea and it's never going to work. Even Vaggie could add some contrast to that, but she's just being a realist in this song. She's just like, yeah, that's not going to work. These angels are going to be really hard to change. I don't understand why you think this is going to work. Like, Vaggie's just being realistic in this song, whereas Charlie's being a dreamer, which is fine. It's fine having a dreamer as your main character, but in exploring the characters that we're going to have throughout this story, in exploring maybe even the villains, the V's could be singing in this. I feel that there's a lot of wasted story potential there because they aren't including the other characters that we'll see in the story. Instead, they're showing us random made-up characters that are just on the streets of hell that won't have a significant impact on our story. And again, contrast this with Hamilton. We literally cannot waste the actors that they have on stage for that musical. All of them are involved in some way. We have Aaron Burr. We have all of Alexander Hamilton's friends. We have all of the people who are against Alexander Hamilton in the later in the show. Like, all of them are a part of that song. And then it makes sense to introduce them there. Like, this is our big introductory musical number. Let's introduce our characters, maybe even hint at a little bit of what they'll be thinking or doing throughout the rest of the series, and then kind of continue on with the story. But instead, Happy Day in Hell is Charlie just dreaming. And she's going through the streets of hell, which... That's why I feel that it could implement more of the other characters. Like, maybe Alistair is in Cannibal Town talking with Rosie. Maybe Angel Dust is in the porn studio, because she mentions a porn studio. We never see it. Maybe Husker is at a bar because the hotel's closed for the night, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of places that you could put our main cast throughout hell, and you could inform us a little bit about their characters. What do they think about the hotel? Do they think it's viable? Do they think that there's something that could be done here? Or is it just another shitty day in hell? I'm working for the Princess of Hell. It's whatever. I just feel that there's a lot of wasted story potential with this very first song. Because later on, they do good. They have everyone united and singing about the hotel, and I feel that could have contrasted better had this first song shown our main cast saying, yeah, it's a shitty day in hell, this hotel's never gonna work, I don't even know why she thinks it's gonna work. Like, having them sing about that in this song contrasts and kind of gives a nice little loop to the very last song, because then we have that compare and contrast. We see where they didn't believe in her, we see where they do believe in her, and that could give a nice little through line for the series. But they didn't, and as an effect, I feel that this story loses out on this song loses out on a lot of story potential that it could have otherwise had they actually implemented some of the other characters in this song. Oh, you could even establish Serpentius in this song. Like, he could just be one of the sinners in the background. Maybe even establish Mimsy in the background, just doing her thing. Like, establish each individual character that we're going to be dealing with throughout the series and give them their little moments, maybe in the background or in the spotlight, to really establish this is the world of hell that we'll be exploring. And, you're seeing a lot of characters here. Maybe they'll come up again. But instead, we've got all of these characters that are just... Honestly, they feel like complete and total throwaways. I don't understand why they wasted that background budget and animation on characters that will never come back. Is it just cameos for the people who helped with the pilot? I mean, that's fine, but it feels like a wasted place to be putting that kind of thing when you only have 8 episodes. You're such a limited amount of time to tell your story, and you're not utilizing every element that you can in telling that story. So why was she surprised later on when she ended up in Cannibal Town, when she's literally in the introduction of this show in Cannibal Town? It's kind of weird that she got lost in going here later in the series when she's already been to Cannibal Town. So yeah, and I that's another thing. I have a hard time understanding the scale of this place because she doesn't seem to be going in a straight line. So she's going from her hotel down to the embassy that's in the center of Pentagram City. So she ended up in the V's area, and then she ended up in Cannibal Town, and then she ended up... I'm not really quite understanding the structure to this place, and I don't feel like they really considered or cared about it either, but I feel that I should have a better understanding of the scale and where everything is in this story. So I'll mark that as a kind of failing in this show, is that I don't quite understand the space that they're working with. That's another thing I wish they'd explain, is the death and respawning mechanics of hell. Like, because there's Cannibal Town, are they just eaten up and dead at that point, or do they reconstitute somewhere else? Do they respawn like they did in the pilot? And also, when they die to angels, they're dead, but like, these guys are just shooting themselves, so are they just gonna live? Like, what's going on with that? I feel like that's just a visual gag. But how is he eating through this mask? Like, it would have been... I don't see the problem with him just taking that mask off and eating, but they decided to keep the mask on, so there's a logical question of how is he eating through the mask? This feels like such a waste of time. Like the other scene we saw, they're failing at making a commercial. We come back here, Adam's just telling stories and being a little bit of a dick. I mean, I already knew he was a dick from how he first interacted with Charlie. So the rest of this scene is such a waste. It feels like this song was written with the intention of it just flowing right into this, which would explain why the rest of the episode meandered so much, because it was just literal filler. Throw in a transition between these two, because Charlie's singing about her happy day in hell. She's ready to say happy day and then it goes to him contrasting her. I feel that these songs would have worked well if they were butted up against each other, and then the rest of the story was explained of Charlie kind of like figuring out, okay, my happy day in hell idea is not happening. Well, shoot, what are we going to do with that? But instead, they kind of split them up and have these two plot lines that ultimately don't further the narrative in a significant way. Having that commercial, like having that deal between Alistair and Vaggie, that we never see the fruits of that labor. The commercial never comes back. It's just, it happened. They made a new commercial. Do we ever see it again? No. And then with this scene, we have so much back and forth with Adam and Charlie to establish Adam's kind of an asshole. This song establishes that well enough. Like, this song establishes not only that, but that there's going to be an extermination in 6 months instead. So why not just have this song and then tell the rest of your story throughout the rest of the episode? Hands down, I expected this meeting to go bad, but it's the way in which it went bad that is so weird. Like, she had all of this prepared to kind of explain exactly why she wants to try for her rehabilitations, but Heaven's not for it. So I expected that going in. It's weird that they needed to meander so much. So there we go with her first episode of Hazbin Hotel. It, again, kind of a rocky start. Feels like there's a lot of potential in the scenes that they set up, but it under-delivers in what it could tell storytelling-wise. The songs are great. The characters look great. And overall, I enjoy the ideas of this hellish world, but it's just kind of missing the mark when it comes to telling a compelling story and making sure that it all connects well together. So, yeah, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see all of you in the next video.